We have, I think, most items, well, we'll see. Let's go to issue number 1, the motor vehicle account. Oh dear, fund condition. Tell me things are better.
Mark Newberger, Department of Finance.
Page 32, page 32. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the motor vehicle account fund condition. The agenda does an excellent job laying out the problem and the associated issues. Fees collected to operate programs in the MVA are about $300 million short of expenses in the current year. The difference has been addressed using the repayment of general fund loans. However, a solution is required for future years. After considering the needs for capital outlay improvements for both DMV and CHP, as well as future estimated expenses, Finance determined that a $10 fee increase to the vehicle registration fee indexed to the Consumer Price Index is necessary to address the fund solvency. This will provide funding for the highest priority capital outlay projects for the CHP and DMV. Also, this will fund anticipated growth in expenditures for all MVA departments, primarily the CHP, DMV, and to a lesser extent, ARB and others. We are happy to answer any questions.
Well, you know, this is an ongoing problem. So your suggestions are?
The administration proposes raising the vehicle registration fee by $10 and indexing it to CPI to address the expenditures and out-year needs of the fund.
All right, let's hear from Finance. Oh, well, yes. I thought you were LAO.
No, they're LAO.
Thank you very much.
Over that.
No, I didn't. I thought she was, and then you moved. Go ahead.
Jessica Peters with the...
No, you would have no concerns about that. I know.
As was indicated, the MVA has faced an ongoing operational shortfall for the past several years and will continue to face an operational shortfall absent corrective action. As was mentioned, the governor has a proposal for the $10 registration fee increase and indexing that fee. Our assessment of the proposal, we find that, I should also say that the governor also proposes certain expenditure increases consistent with the administration's priorities that would also be funded from that fee increase, as well as maintaining solvency of the account. We find that under the governor's proposal for the fee increase as well as the expenditure increase, that the MVA would be barely balanced over the next several years, and that by 1920 in our forecast there would be a small operational shortfall in the fund. And so it's possible, and under our forecast, the problems with the fund condition in the MVA could recur in the future. The governor's proposal is one way of addressing the solvency issues in the MVA, at least in the short run, but the legislature has options, and you may want to consider those options. One option would be to reduce expenditures from the MVA. Even a small change in expenditures by approving maybe a slower rate of increase of expenditures in the future could help to keep the MVA in balance in the longer term. Another thing to consider is increasing MVA revenues. In addition to the governor's proposal for the registration fee increase, there's other fees that support the MVA, such as the driver's license fee, and the legislature could consider that or other sources. And third, we note that there is a current transfer of MVA revenues to the general fund of roughly $80 million. And one option would be to retain these revenues in the MVA instead of transferring them to the general fund. That alone would not solve the magnitude of the shortfall, but it could be one component. And you could use any mix of these different options to maintain solvency of the account in the long run.
May I ask one question?
Sure, go ahead.
What's the justification of sending money to the general fund? Was it for any specific related purpose or just to augment the general fund?
So my understanding is that this came about during the fiscal crisis, and that as well as certain other special funds, most of the money in the MVA is protected by Article 19 of the Constitution and restricted to transportation purposes. But there are some miscellaneous revenues and fees and things that go into the account that are not covered under Article 19. And so those non-Article 19 monies are what is transferred out. And so this has been in place for the last several years, but that was the genesis of it.
So a registration fee increase is one possibility, certainly. The indexing concerns me, but I understand why that's important. But I am concerned about this transfer to the general fund. We're now out of the problems that we had. And we have, it seems to me, we ought to be restoring some of the funds to their original purpose, which is the MVA, given the problem that we have with the
Well, the
MVA.
rest is a user fee that could be justified.
Yeah. So, any comments on that from, and also your comment is, you talked about reducing expenditures. Are there specific expenditures that you're thinking of, that you suggest?
We don't have any specific recommendations. Some of the larger new expenditures from the MVA that the governor is proposing is related to capital outlay projects for CHP and DMV. One approach could be to approve fewer new projects or to, in the future, approve fewer new projects. And so I think those are some of the items later on your agenda. But the administration also has just an ongoing plan as part of their 5-year infrastructure plan to continue to bring additional CHP and DMV facility projects to the legislature each year into the future. And so you could slow the rate of growth of expenditures or approve fewer new expenditures now or in the future.
Okay. I think this is certainly an item that we need to hold open. Senator Nielsen, did you have any comments on this? I think this is an item that we're definitely going to hold open. It's going to need some more fine tuning, I think. Let me hear from finance again. You think it's great because you get more money. I get that. But, you know, it's a long-term sustainability issue, which, you know, we're not going to eliminate the deficit with just that $10 registration fee increase.
No, but I mean,
problems.
just to respond to several of the comments, as far as sort of the reserve questions, based on our projections, the fee increase that we're proposing would leave the MVA with a prudent but not excessive reserve. And as far as the transfer to the general fund, we note that that transfer does compute to the current stability of the general fund. Ending the transfer won't solve the MVA's structural imbalance issue. It's a $70 million transfer, and there's a
Not alone. Not alone.
No, sorry, excuse me. Ending the general fund transfer that currently occurs for non-Article 19 revenues. That won't solve the MVA structural imbalance issues. In the long run, if the general fund transfer is ended, additional cuts would need to be considered to other general fund programs.
Got that. All right. Any comments from the committee members? All right. We're going to hold that open. I think that needs a little bit of work. Quite a bit of work, actually. So let's move on to issue number 2, the self-service. These are some of the expansion projects